there's no place on earth I wouldn't want to be than right here, in this minute of trying to bring success to one of the biggest football clubs in the world. The basic underlying principles that I want my team to play football that scares the life out of every opposition, mate. That's kind of the end game.
Welcome to the Barside Spurs pubcast for our upbeat podcast this week. Joining us today is Ritch Grove. How are you, mate?
I'm pretty good, mate. Pretty good. I'm a lot more positive about things than I thought we were going to be on this podcast.
Yeah. Do we owe an apology, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you should ever really be apologetic for being cautious. I mean, especially not when everybody's everybody's accusing everybody else of being sort of naive and getting away with things when they're not.
Exactly.
But
I don't think we were the lone wolves in this. I think pretty much everybody was predicting that we would we'd struggle in this game, and I heard some people was predicting we might even get beat 5 and 6-0. Well, I think if I remember, we predicted 3-1, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, I think if I remember rightly, I did say we'll get beat, but it'll probably be a positive beating, like the one that we had up there when Soldado had a penalty saved. I think that was the analogy I made.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could always go down the route of trying to convince everybody that we were tempting fate. That's what we were doing.
Yeah.
Reverse side, and it worked a treat.
Yeah, well, I think we were probably sort of protecting ourselves, weren't we? Really, there's an element of us kind of like making it feel like, we expected truthfully a result which would be difficult for us. So there's an element of self-preservation in it, I suppose. But in the end, they did score 3 goals. We were right on that front, but we did score 3 goals. So I think we should just get straight into that. I think, first of all, I just kind of generally get your thoughts on the first half and how we played. And do you think we got lucky?
Yes, I think by sort of common admission, and I think even Ange has said this, or I think it was Ange, it might have been Son, said after the game that we were lucky to still be in the game at half time. I think we did get lucky. We were off the hook a little bit. I mean, we started well enough, obviously, but I think they could have sort of blown us away. On another day, they'd have got that hatful, wouldn't they, in that first half?
Yeah.
But to sort of to bring up the first cliche of the day, it really was a game of 2 halves, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll cover that, but I think it was incredible how that 2 halves were so different. It was, I think there was because of a substitution. We'll get into that later on. But so yeah, I think the game took us all by surprise. The first half maybe not so much because, like you say, they could have had this the hatful. But the fact that when Son then was put through by Hill and scored again another sort of classic goal that Son scores. I thought he was going to square it, but ended up sort of putting it low underneath the keeper. Lovely goal. And then he went on and got an own goal not long after.
Yeah.
So,
2 minutes or something like that, just over 2 minutes later.
Yeah. And then, you're sort of thinking, okay, right, we try not to get your hopes up here. And then minutes later, Doku hits the bar, which then hits the post and comes out. Haaland misses an open goal. Alvarez hits the post as well, all in that first half. Foden scores, which then makes it 2-1 to them. And you are fearing the worst at that point. I thought I wasn't actually that displeased with the way we played. I mean, clearly they were dominating, but I thought it could be a cricket score by half time. Fortune meant it wasn't, but also so did the way that we played. The mantra of attack is the best form of defense really did help us, I think, in this game.
Yeah, very much so. And I think, had we have adopted that sort of, the cautious approach that we've seen over the last few seasons, although ironically enough, Manchester City is one of the places where those rules went out of the window under Jose and Conte. You know, on more than one occasion. But if we'd have adopted our more sort of habitual cautious approach, I think they'd have just picked us off, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and of course, you know, throughout that first half, you had the commentators and all talking about naive Ange and you know, basically Spurs have got to find a different way to this and that kind of stuff. And then when actually in the second half it did change around, we brought on Højbjerg. They took that as kind of vindication that, you know, their idea was right. I don't think that was the case. We still played on the front foot. So what they were talking about was bollocks. It wasn't that we then started to tighten up and shore it up at all. In fact, the opposite in many ways, because we had more control when he came on. And I you know, I just feel that there's this kind of lazy attitude that is because they're saying it is seeping into other people's mindsets that Ange is just this, you know, never done it in any big leagues. He's incredibly naive and he has to adapt to what he's got. We said this before. That's not what he's going to do. He keeps saying it. You can see he's getting a bit fed up with it. This is our way, and it paid off.
Yeah. I mean, totally. You know, I think, you know, Hill might be a little bit lightweight in terms of you know, body strength. I think if there was one. You know, if there's one sort of defining factor of his first half was that he was sort of bullied a little bit sometimes in possession. But that said, you know, I mean, he did make some really, really important contributions, you know, especially to the first goal, I think.
Yeah, that was magnificent. I mean, I 100% agree with you, Rich. Actually, I still think if he's going to make it, he definitely still, like Silva, he has to bulk up somewhat and to be Premiership ready. And I thought he had been trying to do that. He was, you know, knocked off it too much, which is possibly why he was taken off. But that said, you cannot doubt his technical ability, because that turn and pass was exceptional.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, I mean, I'm not even criticising him. You know, in terms of how he did perform and what happened with him on the field in that first half. I think perhaps it was possibly a shape change more than as much as a personnel change at half time, rather than somebody looking and going, man, he's getting murdered, we need to get him off the pitch, you know. You know, I think there's a difference. So, you know, players like Luka Modric were extremely small and extremely slight, but although Modric was never the quickest paced player, he was very, very quick at moving the ball out from under his feet. So when contact came in, the ball was already gone. Whereas Hill's a very quick player, but plays with the ball at his feet for longer periods of the time that he's in possession. And so when he gets turned over, he generally loses the ball. So I wonder whether or not it's actually a case of him needing to bulk up, or whether or not he needs to just learn to be a little bit quicker with his feet. And so the ball's gone before the challenge comes in. And I think that might be an easier thing for him to do than to suddenly, you know, find an extra 10 kilos in muscle mass or whatever it is, you know. So
yeah,
I don't
maybe
criticize him. You know, I think, you know, it's good to see that he was getting the start, you know, and it's good. Yeah, okay, you know, Kyle Walker's a pass master and made him look a bit naive at times. But, you know, Kyle Walker is an exceptional footballer, as we all remember, and he'll do that to most people in the Premiership. So I don't think there's any shame in that.
No, once again, like last pod, we were talking about being kicked and how Modric adapted. I think also when we look back at Modric, he was getting done quite early, and then he realised he just had to be that just a little bit quicker on the half turn, and then he was away. And I think, you know, maybe you're right there, Rich. You know, there is just something about you need to be just slightly quicker. Like he was on that turn and that pass, that just split their defense. That was incredible. And then Kulu's pass was just, you know, was fantastic for Son to sort of head on and then run that goal and score that, you know, absolutely brilliant goal. It was an amazing team goal. I mean, despite the fact that, you know, there were calls of naivety, actually, also, to be fair, there are a lot of positive praise about just how good it is to watch our attacking play, because it is brave. Um, and and you can see, with the limited resources we've got, that is our best form, because our attack is still the strongest part of what we have left. So it makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Yeah, of course, of course. And as others have written and spoken about since, actually one of the benefits of playing Manchester City is that unlike Villa last week, they don't pack their 18-yard box that first third of the pitch.
Mm.
They don't want to spend all that time on the field defending as well, and so as a result, they don't over personnel their half of the field, and it allows our attacks to be dynamic and to be quick and to step into space and to play forwards to all the ball towards a moving ball, and I think, although it's kind of counterintuitive to say that in this position, personnel and recent form wise, it was a good thing to go to Manchester City at that point. But they're probably one of only 2 or 3 teams in the league that would have granted us that space to play into, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so anyway, we'll get into the second half now. It did change and we grew into the game. Why do you think that was?
Well, I mean, I think he's probably had, one of these. They're becoming legendary, aren't they? These halftime team talks. I think he said after the game that he said to them that, all the responsibility for failure will sit with him, so that they need to just get. Was it Kulusevski said that he told them to stop thinking and just play?
Yeah.
Shades of just fucking run about a bit.
Yeah.
But
I think also, like, a lot of it is probably just trying to say, look, a lot of this is in your head. Just go and play your game. I'll take the responsibility for whatever happens here. You just do your job. Just go and play and stop overthinking it. And I think that that clearly made a difference, because it wasn't just the fact that we brought on Højbjerg for Hill. I mean, who did play pretty well actually, but it was. I think we just seemed to sharpen up a bit.
Yeah. There was more urgency about it, and I guess there's also that you're in the second half of the game now. If you're staring down the barrel and there's 80 minutes to play, it's a different place to be from thinking, right, we're half an hour away from the final whistle now. If we get our noses in front, it's not beyond the realms of reason that we can keep it there for this length of time as well. And so that kind of inspires a bit of confidence and a bit of like, well, let's have a go now. But yeah, I mean, I think the combination of the two things, the slight tweak, possibly the words, the just go and do it, and again, there's this feeling of we've come here to impose what sort of a team we are, rather than like the likes of us who are thinking we've going up there to avoid a good bloody hiding. That's why we're not elite football, isn't it? Because we'd have gone up there and got a good fucking hiding because of the way that we talk about it. Yeah. So I mean, there were a few very, very good performances within the context of the game as well. I mean, you think sort of Porro is a completely transformed player earlier in the season. He didn't get everything right, but you can sort of see that sort of playing on the front foot and snapping into things and being aggressive and that, and I think that is a very real good sort of microcosm of how the entire team approached that second half.
Yeah, absolutely. I got it so wrong on that person. I thought at the beginning of the season he just might not fit this Ange's system, but he's just been one of the players that have been one of the leading lights. Not only is he technically so good, but his attitude is infectious. It's just he's geeing up the crowd. He's geeing up the other players. He's just got such a incredible personality that is also, I think, important. And again, we probably talked about this, but one of the things that Ange has also said, he says, look, so many players are at this level are all great. He says, but what it comes down to is the person and the personality. And, and he's just the sort of personality we need, who's who's got this never say die attitude and seems really proud to play for us as well, and to pull on that shirt.
Yeah, and I mean that's the transformative thing, isn't it? Because I very much got the sense that he arrived earlier in the year, obviously under different management, and then instantly took a look round and thought, "What the fuck have I walked into?"
Mm.
And there was very much a sort of feeling that we didn't really know what to do with him. He had a manager that I don't think wanted him. And I mean, he may have come out and said that he didn't want him in the way that he did. That my trauma brain has blocked a lot of what Conte said. But there was kind of that feeling that like we'd kind of gone through, and it had been such a protracted transfer as well. Will they, won't they, and would they bring back Marcus Edwards as part of the deal as well? And then that didn't happen, and suddenly he was there in a club that probably didn't really want him, in a position that he wasn't really there, equipped to play under a manager that didn't want to be at the fucking club at the best of times. And he personified the entirety of the end of last season, I think, and now he's really kind of really flipped that over, and again he's personifying everything that's good about the club.
Yeah, absolutely. So your favourite player then equalises, Lo Celso, from outside the box. Lovely goal, by the way.
I'll tell you what, he's a fabulous player, I've always said so.
Yeah. Someone else said that, I believe.
Yeah, no, I've got to be honest. I mean, it's like I said the other day on socials. If at the end of the season they're handing Gio Lo Celso a player of the season award at the club or something like this, or if he ends up getting the most assists or the most goals or anything, that if he scores the most goals that bounce off his arse or something like that, whatever it is, if there's an accolade for him at the end of the season, there will genuinely be nobody happier than me. Because I always thought that he was potentially a really good signing when he came in. I became deeply frustrated with him. And I just thought, I think my words were, the Lo Celso experiment is fucking over. Just get rid of it. Right. And there will be nobody happier in the world than me to be wrong. I will say that.
You're not churlish, Rich.
I am wrong. So
he's had a couple of decent games, scored in the last two games. Just hope he scores in the next one as well. But it's just as well, to be honest, with Maddison possibly out until February. But I think when the full team is back, he doesn't get in the side anyway. So I don't think you're wrong, Rich. It's just that at the moment, he is, I think he's showing more of his qualities, that perhaps this manager is allowing him to do that. But perhaps the last two or three managers, which is why we got this view of him, just didn't play him the way that he plays his natural game. So there's all sorts of reasons why maybe we've had this view on him. But like you said, like everybody said, Lo Celso, when he came in, we thought, wow, what a player. Same as, to a worse degree, and Dembele. We all can see the bloody talent he's got, but he's not been able to reproduce it. So there you go.
Yeah, it's strange, but no, I mean, I'm happy that he's doing a job, because without his contribution at the moment, that would be a very sort of empty of creation part of the pitch, wouldn't it? It is it's encouraging to see, and I think to give him further credit, it is credit to his professionalism that he's been shoved about from pillar to post. He's been out on amounts of time. He's been injured. He's not got his chances when he's been fit. And now he's sort of coming in and he appears to be grabbing it by the scruff of the neck. And that does show a level of professionalism and integrity that I think is worth mentioning, especially when you look at players like Ndombele, who is sort of not doing it anywhere he goes. With doubtless with the talent to do whatever he bloody chooses to do, should he do so. But very, very much so. It was interesting to note, thinking about when you say about when the team is fully fit, where he won't get anywhere near it, that Postecoglou let slip that he would be really looking forward to seeing Bentancur and Bissouma
and Maddison together.
And he kind of let that slip, didn't he? In an interview, I was really disappointed, because I was really, really, really looking forward to that. And you think, oh, okay, yeah, so that's a bit of a sign of how it might look in the future.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see if this next few weeks disrupts that plan.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, then when Grealish makes it 3-2, at that point, were you thinking, okay, this is it, game over?
No, actually, at that point, I thought we're bound to get another one. I looked at the clock and thought, no, I think we'll get another one. Yeah. I still didn't think that we were going to come away from anything. I'll be honest with you, when Grealish put that one in, I thought we were going to end up losing it 4-3, not 3-2. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Because you could just see that the game was not done yet.
You
know, but they'd had so many chances that I was thinking, there's no way we're coming away from this with anything yet. That hadn't sort of come onto my horizon. I was still thinking glory in defeat here, like we're really done ourselves well. But they've missed too many chances.
Yeah.
Like, Harding will put one in at some point,
And I think that the way we played and the way we took increasing control, I think from like about 60 minutes onwards, I think we just grew in that confidence. Like you say, I think it's it sort of backs up what you're suggesting here, that it didn't feel like the game was over because we were increasing in our influence and control. We had much more possession than we did in the first half. We looked like maybe that Ange had said we stopped overthinking it. And then I mean personally when that third one went in, I think it was like about the 80th minute or something like that, or the 82nd minute, I'm thinking, oh, okay, right, probably we'll get nothing out of this. But having said that, it just felt like the game was still in flux, like you say. There was still something more to come. They're so clinical. We could have tied and they could have finished us off. But we actually continued to control that. And I thought, even though he sort of came and went in phases as he's done since he's sort of come to the club, Johnson grew again towards the end. And that bursting run on the 90th minute, where he then just sort of went up one gear and went past. Can't even remember which defender it was now, but then just flipped it in for Kulusevski's header. Oh my God. I mean, what a header. It just was, that was just brilliant. And at that point, I'm thinking, could we win it?
Yeah.
It just shows, doesn't it, how fickle we are.
Yeah. Well, it does. And I mean, it's these games are some of the best, though, aren't they? We look back, we all come up to the Man City games and go, "Fucking hell, this is going to be painful,"
Yeah.
And afterwards, we look after and we go, "God alive," because we always seem to step up and give them a game. Frequently, we beat them, or if not beat them, we take a point off them. And as much as none of us expected anything like that this time round, there were shades of the Kulusevski Kane late goal. Not last year up there, the year before, wasn't it? That sort of fucking hell, we've done it again.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. We are their bogey team, and maybe we should keep this in mind more. I mean, maybe if we had our full team, we would, but because it just felt everything was stacked against us. We're playing a different way now. We haven't got Kane in the team, and we've got so much. So many of our team is depleted. What else is going to happen here? And in reality, this is what everybody, not just Spurs fans, but what everybody thought. But yet there just has to be something universally kind of ordained that we are their bogey club, because no matter what, we always seem to be in their heads. And then when it was 3-3, and you could see Ange's pump in the air, and then that I don't know if you saw that image of Guardiola fall to the ground rolling about, as if he's like, I cannot believe it yet again. Spurs do it to us, and it was delicious.
It is. I mean, it is a thing of beauty, is what it is.
Yeah, and then of course we have that other sort of. Consider everything that's happened again with us on VAR. We had the other sort of contentious moment when towards the very, very end, when it looked like the ball had been knocked over for Grealish to run through, the whistle goes and it's called back. So, I mean, all the conspiracy theorists are out, of course. and but actually, I don't know. I mean, I want. Everyone's saying the ref had a howler there, but I've looked at it again. And it just looks to me like he kind of does blow and then lets play go, and then when he realizes the ball's moved too quickly, that's maybe why he calls it back. And the reaction of Haaland and their team afterwards, I think, is disgusting. That in fact they're up on disciplinary for it, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they've been charged
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's two things. I mean, I think from where the referee is, because he's sort of deeper into our half than where it happens. He's quite close to the incident, isn't he? And then of course Haaland sort of comes away and pitches and fires it over the top. Now the narrative goes that Jack Grealish is through on goal, but there is this massive Ben Davies shaped problem with this.
Yeah.
Because Ben Davies is up with him by the time he receives the ball. And I think, if I remember rightly, Emerson Royale wasn't too far off as well.
So he still had a lot to do.
He was halfway through our half. He wasn't one-on-one on our goalkeeper. He wasn't in the half. And this is Jack Grealish. What you're expecting us to do is suspend all disbelief and pretend that Jack Grealish is going to stay on his feet for a distance of about 50 yards and finish, right? When he's got at least one defender on him and a goalkeeper in front of him. Now, Jack Grealish is an amazingly talented player, I know, but I sometimes worry if he's got fucking dropsy the amount of time he falls over. So what's actually going to happen here's what happens if the ref doesn't blow, Grealish receives the ball, Davies challenges him, Grealish goes down, Manchester City win a free kick. It is not as simple to say Manchester City have got a goal scoring opportunity. Because when they actually play the ball into goal, there will be a fucking line of defenders in between the wall and the goal. Because there's no way Grealish is doing that. That's just not what's the defender on him. He's going to roll around on the floor and pretend that he's been shot, or that, that Ben Davies has wronged him so badly that even Grealish's mother is at home crying into her fucking chips. Like it doesn't bear any resemblance to reality to think that he's running through and scoring that.
Yeah. No, and then the Man City crowd start chanting "cheat, cheat, cheat." I think they think irony is like Goldie and Bronzy, but made of iron.
Yeah. Well, they think they can buy it just like they bought they bought everything else.
Because I mean, the fact that they've got 115 charges hanging over them, it's just like the irony there is ridiculous. Anyway, so
I did see that there was quite a funny tweet was shared the day after that the FA was so incensed with Haaland's reaction that they've deducted Everton a further 3 points.
Yeah. So I just want to cover a couple of players actually before we finish off this match. Firstly, I was staggered by Micah Richards' comments on Vicario. I don't know if you caught them, but on the post-match thing, he couldn't hide his his bitterness, but he was saying that Vicario is not a very good keeper. He's playing too risky around the box, and actually he let his team down. What game was he watching?
Vicario, Micah Richards is a fucking idiot, right? He borrows his brain cell off one of the other lads that they leave in a cupboard. This is not a man that thinks about football. I mean, you know that he's supposed to be this jovial, wisecracking, like I'm the one that's always smiling. Alan Shearer's the miserable one. Ian Wright's the sarcastic one. Gary Lineker's the one that wore his pants for match of the day. Micah Richards is the smiling, always happy, jovial one. He's a fucking idiot. Yeah. Just ignore everything he says, and you'll be fine.
I mean, to be honestly, I'm not just saying this. I would rather Vicario over Ederson. I think Vicario has more potential. He's a better shot stopper. He's rapid off his line. I think he's such a brilliant keeper, and he flies in the face of what a lot of other people have said so far, that he's possibly one of the best keepers in the Premier League at the moment, and also one of the best signings so far.
I totally agree. I think he's done remarkably well since he's come in, considering he's only had a dozen games in the Premier League all told to start with. He's playing behind a new defence, and he's currently playing behind a makeshift defence. I think he plays exceptionally well. I think he stops a lot of He stops a lot of shots that, I mean, let's face it, if we go into that game with Forster or Lloris in goal, we have lost it 5,
yeah,
what have you, because there are times that he's kept out on Sunday that any of the others, even Lloris a few years ago, wouldn't have kept a couple of those out. He's an excellent snap reaction. He's got excellent snap reactions. I think he plays the ball out much better than Lloris ever did. I think he communicates with his back line far better than Lloris ever did. I think he's a fabulous goalkeeper. I really do.
By the way, has Lloris gone to the Bermuda Triangle for a holiday or something?
I don't fucking know. He's probably sat in the club bar
before he drives home.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? What's happened there? You'd have thought they'd have just gone like, look, go home and we'll honour you. Maybe he's
such
gone
a
home.
shame, isn't it? It's an ignominious end for an absolutely class player that he just he's got to a point in his career as can happen. He's not the same player as he was.
Yeah, it's a strange thing because you wonder what his options were over the summer, because surely there was some capacity for him to go somewhere and play his final year. Whether he's just gone, no, I just want to sit here and take the money.
Maybe. I mean, to be fair, you could say he's owed it. I mean, he's given us a lot of great service.
Well, the other thing is, it might be that something that we don't know is that maybe his body's not up to it anymore. Maybe he physically cannot play.
Maybe he's coaching more.
Yeah, you don't know. You just don't know. Maybe he's working behind the bar instead of in front of it. I mean, we just
cleaning the glasses, the pot boy.
Yeah, it's a bit like that old joke about Pat Jennings cleaning the windows on the executive boxes, isn't it? No, I don't know. I mean, I think he was in a press photograph recently, wasn't he? And everywhere, fucking hell, who's that bloke there? Oh, he used to play goal,
Yeah.
So he's clearly still in and around the club, but who knows? Maybe we'll find out when it all finishes, when his contract's up. He might say, look, I never recovered from that last injury, really. I wasn't fit to play. And so it wouldn't have been right for me to have gone anywhere else because I'd have just let loads of howlers in or something.
Yeah, I think it would go against the grain for the club just to treat them like crap towards the end. I don't think we would do that. I mean, any player that's left, despite how we think that they've been perceived, have all come out and said, actually, no, actually quite the opposite. The club have always treated us really well. Levy's treated us really well. Even Stephen Corker recently in an interview where I think he quoted Daniel Levy sitting him down and saying, look, the chairman, like Lewis, basically wants you gone because of your behaviour, because of how drunk you've been, because of everything that's been happening. But we want to offer you one more year. We believe that you can do. And he said, no, I'm going to go. He said, but and Levy turned around and said, look, if you do go, you the only way is down from here. Just stay with us. And he said Levy was right, and he regrets it. And I think a lot of players when they leave do still speak highly of the club, that they are still held in high regard. They're not just dealt with it as trash that's just been thrown out. There's always an element of dignity to the way we treat our players and ex-managers. I think more will come out, as we say, about Lloris, and I don't think it's just because we binned him, jettisoned him, or made him sort of like the black sheep. Anyway, well, I guess we'll find out in due course. So maybe one of the only performances that I would say that possibly wasn't up to where we thought it might be was Bissouma. I wouldn't say he had a terrible game, but one point he did give the ball away, and that's what led to the equaliser, I believe, or their leading goal. I'm struggling to remember now, but I just feel that overall wasn't as effective as he might have been. Hopefully that's going to come back. He's had a fantastic beginning of the season. Just the last month or so, he just seems to have, I don't know whether he's lost a bit of confidence or maybe because he's been in and out of the team. That the quality we saw surely doesn't just vanish. I think that should come back. and hopefully in the next game we'll talk about in a minute. What were your thoughts on Bissouma's performance overall, mate?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he was a bit underwhelming. In terms of making serious mistakes, like you say. I think it was Foden's goal, wasn't it? He lost the ball for. But apart from that, underwhelming, I think is the word that best sums it up. But like you say, since he was sent off at Luton, he's been in and out of the team a little bit. He's been suspended, and then he's picked up that yellow. I think it was against Palace, wasn't it? There was the second disruption. He hasn't really had a clear run, and of course, every time he's come back into the side, the players around him are changing. The formation's changing a little bit. The situation and the momentum in the team has changed a little bit as well. So I think he's a reflection of that, really. I think, I want to be fair to him and say I can't see any real cause for concern. I think possibly if he can stay fit and unsuspended for the next, we've got 5 games coming up in quite a short space of time now. That sometime around about Christmas he should have found his rhythm. I think if by that point he hasn't, then we have to start asking whether or not there's a wider problem, and what's happened, what's happened to him. But certainly at the moment, I think we can go a bit easy on him. It is a shame. I think it's possibly more marked by the fact that because of our wider injury concerns, his lack of contribution is thrown into greater contrast. If he doesn't have Bentancur or Maddison or any of these others around him doing incredible things that are generating superlatives in the press, then his performance becomes ever more apparent. So I think it's just a combination of those things, really. I don't have any concerns. It would have been nice had he have had a better game on Sunday, but equally, I wasn't screaming for him to be hooked.
No, I get you. I mean, I've seen a few comments saying he doesn't deserve his place now, that perhaps Højbjerg should be on. Would you go as far as that for the next game? No. Me neither. I think Højbjerg's come on and done a decent job, actually. But I think that's his best role for us, to come on and do a job. So I'd stick with Bissouma.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I do think that just like I'm having to be a bit sort of fairer towards Lo Celso, I should give Højbjerg a bit more credit than I have latterly. I mean, I know he's a bugger for letting the ball go and for us to concede. We often concede goals when Højbjerg's lost the ball in the middle of the pitch, right? And I'm very, very quick to point that out when it happens. I also think that he did remarkably well on Sunday, and I think he's doing really well as a player that's coming on and having a greater impact. And it's actually reminding me a little bit of something that Ledley King used to say, which was when people used to ask him how he was able to read the game so well and why Ledley King always seemed to know where he needed to be before he needed to be there. And that was, really the strength in his game. And he said, well, the thing about sitting on the bench is you get a lot of time to watch the game unfold and you get a better understanding of how the game is going to develop. And I wonder if there's a little bit about this on a weekly basis from Højbjerg, that he actually watches the game probably quite well. And then when he comes on, he knows exactly what he needs to do, rather than if he starts the game, he's in the middle of it and he's trying to work out, which is left and which is right for the first hour, which is a little bit unfair, but,
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something about it, because he does seem to be far more effective as a sub.
Right. Well, I think we should get on to the previews of the next 2 games. We've got 2 games in quick succession. We got one on Thursday against the Happy Hammers and their cup final. We've got the greatest player in the defender in the world back, as according to Leo Messi. Romero is back. And I don't know if Sarr is back. I hope he's back for at least one of these 2 upcoming games. And, the Newcastle one's on the Sunday. So yeah, we've got one player back. Maybe Ciy could be back. Let's hope so. How do you think this game is going to play out in the West Ham Cup final?
I think West Ham lose their cup final again, don't they?
I hope so. I hope so.
I can't see this coming up and going toe to toe with Man City and doing so well, and then coming back home.
Yeah.
And West Ham, who are a bit stuttery, they're not really having the form. I mean, I've watched them a couple of times recently. They're very workmanlike. They're a little bit blunt up front, and I think if we give them anything, it'll be because we've given it to them.
Well, we've got this tradition, haven't we, of after the Lord Mayor show, but I feel Ange won't let that happen for this one. I think hopefully that game against City will be the catalyst now for a little run. I think some of the games coming up are a bit more favourable for us, and actually bit by bit we should start getting some of our players back. So I feel that we'll have a right good go at them. I mean, I've seen a lot of their comments from fans. Sadly, I live in Essex, where it is just rife with West Ham fans, and they aren't happy about the way their team's playing. They're playing a low block, really defensive style game. I think we'll be right at them. We'll have our foot on their throats from the off. I think. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, I think traditionally this is the point, like you say, after the Lord Mayor show, this is the point where we go in this thinking, well, we've just done that at Man City, we can turn these fuckers over. They turn up and stand up and push us about a bit, and we get bullied into losing. And I don't think Ange is going to allow that. I think this is a really, really good litmus test of how the team are doing, actually. Possibly in some respects better a litmus test than a Manchester City game, because going away to the champions with a decimated squad kind of lends itself to siege mentality and for backs against the wall performances, whereas being at home against a slightly underwhelming West Ham side, I mean, yeah, they've played reasonably well sometimes this season. They've picked up a few good results. They've obviously gone and won the Johnson's Paint Europe Trophy or whatever it's called, they are what they are. They're going to come and they're going to have their cup final. But I think if we go out there and do what we did at City, and what we've started to do, which is very uncharacteristic for us as a club, and start strong, if we have our noses ahead in 5 or 10 minutes, they've had it.
Yeah.
They have to come at us, and if they come at us, they'll leave gaps everywhere.
Ironically, that their fans will be singing "Champions of Europe." You'll never sing that. Yeah, forgetting the fact that we got 2 other better European trophies than them. But
idiots anyway. Let them. I mean, the beauty of it is they'll be singing it in that sort of weird Danny Dyer-esque mockney. So none of it would understand them anyway.
Nah. Pricks. Yeah. Unfortunately, I've got a lot of friends because of this area that are West Ham, and they've gone very, very quiet, very, very quiet at the moment. But of course, if they get a result, sure as shit that they'll be they'll be at it. So there's a lot of jeopardy on it for me. I'm really, really hoping that we smash them.
I have one of the places that I work is a university, and it's very sparsely populated with football fans. However, the one that is there who is the most vocal of them all is a West Ham fan. And every time we play them, if they get anything from us, I'll get an email off him first thing in the morning before I go in. And then I generally tend to find something left in my lab or on my desk, or, my car park pass has got something written on the back of it or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's genuinely good-natured about it, which is all right, because he's about 18 inches taller than I am, and he works out, so I can't really,
say too much.
I can't really say too much, because he'll fold me up in a little box.
Well, anyway, I think I think it will be a tough game. I think because despite whatever it is a London derby. They'll be up for it. Bowen's a doubt, but he'll make the game. I think Antonio's out though with an injury, but they this is another one like the Chelsea one. For them, if they beat us at home, all is forgiven for the rest of the season, no matter what. So this is why it's their cup final. So it will be a tough game, but I think we win this 3-1, 4-1.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was a cricket-esque score. Yeah. I think. I don't know. I mean, the cautious person in me says it's more likely to be 2-1, but I wouldn't be surprised with 3-1. If we go ahead, they'll have to chase us.
Yeah,
and if they continue to chase us to try and get something, then I think we could score, a good couple of goals on the break and get even further ahead. I think if we go 2-0 up, they just shut up shop. And it's damage limitation.
I mean, when I say it's a tough game, I don't mean score-wise. I think it's tough because they'll come to kick the shit out of us like other teams have done.
Yeah. They're going to want to. It's one of those games where actually I'm more worried about who else gets injured rather than what.
Yeah, and I think they'll know that, and I think they'll know that'll be in our minds because we just can't afford any more injuries. So I think it'll be a bit of a dirty game myself.
Well, it always is, isn't it? Really. Like you say, if Bowen's not on the pitch, I think then that's a bonus because he's the one that'll be sort of geeing them up and giving it all the get fucking into them, lads. So they are always a kicky team. They'll come through us to get a ball rather than play the ball. I don't know if we're quick enough. We can get ahead of them. We can keep the ball away from them. If we get a strong referee, we should be all right.
Yep.
That's going to be the thing. If we get a weak ref, then there could be a couple of nasty injuries come from this game. And at the moment, we don't know. You just don't know what the refs are going to do you?
No, exactly. And it's a later kick-off, 8:15. So we better fucking win because that's going to be a late journey home as well. And my train going home is going to be full of West Ham as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. I shan't be at this one. As I was saying last night on WhatsApp, 7:45 kickoffs are a gone 1 a.m. return home for me. Because it's just, that if you can't get out of the ground until gone 10 o'clock, by the time I get out onto the bloody motorways, they're always down to a single lane, and you end up getting home at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's a give it a miss one for me, I'm afraid, this time.
Well,
which is a shame. I mean, I think this is the way it's going, isn't it? They clearly don't give a shit about people who travel to games of football.
It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Then we got one hot on the heels of that. We've got the Newcastle game on the Sunday, the 10th, and I'll be going to that as well. That's, I think, a 4:30 kickoff, I want to say. I'm pretty sure it is. That's going to be, we're playing so quickly after that last game. I think Newcastle have a day extra rest. I'm fairly sure. I'm not positive. But, they're on a bit of a run of form again, I think. So it's going to be a tough game, this one. What are your thoughts about the Newcastle game, mate?
I think we're going to beat them.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. I think we're going to beat them. Can't tell you why I think that. I just have a feeling. I think, we need to exercise a couple of ghosts there, don't we? A couple of recent painful experiences. I wonder whether or not there's going to be. I think it'll be a decent contest. I think it'll be a really good game of football, like Sunday's was. But again, the thing about Newcastle is they are a side that will kick you. I mean, they're getting all these plaudits, but they're not the cleanest of sides to play. But I think we'll have enough to turn them over. I think if we as long as we come out of the West Ham game with 11 players that are fit, which again, like we say, is not a foregone conclusion. But I do think we could. I think we could turn Newcastle over. They're not as you know. I mean, they're on a bit of run of form again, but they've shown themselves to be a bit more vulnerable this year.
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Because then that's 7 points for the last 3 games. That would be a nice turnaround for us, and we've got a nice sort of fixture list coming up after that. So that would be good. I'm going to go for. I think you're right. I think it could be a high scoring game. I think I'm going to go for 3-2 to us.
Nice. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I don't argue with that. Not going to argue with that.
Right. Well, there we go. We've put everyone in a good mood, hopefully, because we're going to win the next 2 games, and then we've got a nice run to come. So we're back in the league. It's as mad as it sounds. We're 6 points off, I think, second. If bearing in mind whatever the results are coming up, I think the Goons are 5 points ahead at the moment, aren't they? But they crapped themselves last night. I thought they were so lucky to get that last gasp winner last night to make it 4-3. Luton Town, the way they celebrated when they basically policed us over trying, getting excited about beating Sheffield United. Luton Town are by far the worst team in the league, and they struggled to beat them last night. I don't think they're as good as people think they are. Okay, they got the job done in the 97th minute, but I think when they come up against some decent teams, and they've not played very many decent teams recently, I think they're going to struggle. I think they're going to sort of drop back down again.
Yeah. I think. I think in terms of the narrative of that side, the fact that they failed to win the league last year is going to cost them in terms of confidence under high pressure situations. I mean, there's a long way to go yet. It's a shame, really, that City have dropped so many points already. Liverpool have stuttered here and there as well. I mean, they made fucking hard work of beating Fulham the other day. So, it's another one of them. Well, if Woolwich are going to win a league, where's the pressure coming from at the moment? Because they appear to be getting a lot of buys from their competitors. I don't know. I just hope that somebody drops a fucking bomb on the Emirates before too long.
I think Liverpool might win it this year. Lesser of the two evils, I suppose. But there you go. Anyway, let's wrap it up, mate. Thank you very much for making the time in your very, very busy life. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
There's no place on earth I wouldn't want to be than right here, in this minute of trying to bring success to one of the biggest football clubs in the world. The basic underlying principles that I want my team to play football that scares the life out of every opposition, mate. That's kind of the end game.